Hello and welcome to this second video on our severe weather events category and particularly on forecasting. In the first video, we looked at polygons and demand impact patterns and how they contribute to being able to make better forecasts with severe weather events. In this second video, we are going to put together polygons and demand impact patterns and have a little bit of a play around on the whiteboard to show how these two features play into a forecast. On screen, I have a couple of time series. The top one represents demand. So let's imagine this is your raw sales or your raw demand of, it might be number of coffee sales or it might be number of people that have visited your shop. And that's the number that you want to forecast. And for the rest of this discussion, we are going to pretend that we are stood here at this point in time, which is the last date that we had actual demand for, and we are looking into the future. In green, we have a baseline forecast. So a simple forecast based on historic data. And this forecast, as you can see, has found a kind of weekly seasonality pattern and then has obviously forecasted into the future. So how do we now build on top of this baseline forecast information about severe weather events? Well, what we're going to look at is creating some example features to incorporate the information about those events. And so here's one example. So here I've created a feature that represents winter storms. Now you might want to create a feature that represents hurricanes, floods, heat waves, all the other subcategories of severe weather. But for kind of simplicity, we're just looking at this one for now. And in this scenario, there were two severe weather events in early December. And you can also notice that here we are using demand impact patterns. So the feature doesn't just have a non-zero value on the day of the event itself, but it also has non-zero values in the leading and lagging days to enable the algorithm to understand those behaviors in that leading and lagging period. So already your algorithm should be able to understand the history better. So it should be able to look at, all of these kind of equivalent points in time in its history where it's seen a winter storm and understand the relationship between a winter storm and demand. And in this case, it looks like there is a reduction in demand when you have a winter storm. So just by enabling your model to understand this information about the history, it can better forecast your baseline kind of forecast. It can improve that into the future. But severe weather events can also help you forecast in a second way, and that's by thinking about the future. If you are stood here as we described on the 1st of January, you may find out that there is a storm happening or going to happen on the 3rd of January. And so you can now build in to this feature the information about that storm using the appropriate demand impact pattern. And now you can iterate your forecast and you can rerun it from this point in time using this new information. Now, based on what your model has learned before about when a winter storm happens, it can change its forecast of the future. And in this case, we see that winter storms reduce demand, and so it may create a reduction in the forecasted demand. So that hopefully explains how you can also use demand impact patterns when you are being very agile about forecasting into the future and quickly iterating to use new information, that you can use that information to make a better forecast about the future. If you'd like to know a little bit more about this category, we have lots of documentation on our website. We also have a number of Jupyter notebooks that act as data science documentation that allow you to quickly implement example pieces of code. So please reach out if you've got any questions. I know that was a very quick introduction to our severe weather category and demand patterns and polygons. Thanks for watching.